So today we're working on our Grob machine. This is our 5-axis horizontal, and it has an issue with one of the coolant pumps. There seems to be a seal in the pump that has given way, and we're getting a vaporized coolant mist coming out of this joint, and it's starting to spread a layer of coolant into this cabinet. We of course want to keep all of this nice and clean. So often with the repairs to a machine like this, we have to fly in a technician, and it takes quite a while to schedule and organize getting that done and back up and running. So for something like this, I'm just gonna do it myself, kind of tear into it and see how it goes, but it should be a pretty straightforward repair. So we're gonna start by getting the pump disconnected from the base. So that includes getting these bolt downs out of the way. But everything, as you can see, is covered in a pretty gross layer of coolant. Yeah, if you see on the outside here, we have this drip. Happens when the mist condenses and then runs down. So it's pretty gross. But the machine's been working some long, hard hours on Sentinel DACs. So we want to make sure we keep it maintained and running as smoothly as possible. So it looks like I'm not able to get enough purchase or enough rotation with a standard Allen wrench, so we're going to try to get a ratchet and see if we can get that unmounted from the back. Yeah, some of you may recognize this torque driver from the Magico speakers. Taking it out of our M2s, and we use it for all kinds of things. All right, now we need to disconnect the output. So now we need to see how deep this pump goes. Let's get 2 people in here. Let's pick it up and look and see what we're looking at. Wow. Yeah. Oh. Okay, new plan. We're gonna just take the motor off. Okay, so we have to just disconnect this top. The motor will come off. And this is like a separate assembly. Yeah, so we're gonna remove this coupler that's connecting the electric motor to the pump, so we can get the weight and the length of the motor off of the stand, and then that should make the pump come out nice and easy afterwards. That motor's free. So let's look at this coupler. All right. So there's 1 bolt on each side. So we'll probably leave the coupler on the motor itself and remove it from the pump side. Oh, actually, let's remove the coupler from the motor just in case this is held up. Well, it shouldn't be. We'll remove it from the pump side. Now with the collar loosened, we should be able to pull that motor off and get it on a cart. Let's try it again. 3, 2, 1. Okay, nice. Okay, all right, I got it. Oh, okay. So now we got this out. So let's try to bring the pump out and drop the pump down on this side. Gotta get your, to get that bolt out. Real heavy. Okay. All right, here he goes. That's delicious looking. Let it drain. So right now the pump is draining out the reservoir in here. All right, let's pick it up. Okay, so we've got a grate here at the bottom. So this is the intake. This whole thing is sandwiched up towards the top. You can look in here and see down into the tank. Let's move the motor over to this cart. And then we can just get out of this corner. Got it. Okay. Leave this car here. Let's move this over yonder and get to the workbench. All right, we're gonna start by taking this cap off. All right. Ooh. All right. Let's go ahead and get that in the sink. We'll clean that up. All right, I think it's time to take off this collar. All right, so this is the shaft that's leaking here. See, there's some movement in there. So that seal is what we're going to try to replace. Oop, slides right out. Oh, here we go. Oh my God. All right, so this is the gasket that butts up against the motor housing. So it's on a spring, so it pushes that gasket up, but this is clearly pretty filthy. Oh, here we go. So that is the old O-ring right there. That is destroyed. So what we found was the O-ring inside this collar was torn up. Looks like it's gotten some aluminum dust in there from machining that really just tore it up. And basically the new one is on this spring, and the spring pushes this gasket to seal at the top of the pump. And then that O-ring seals against the shaft. So what we're getting is coolant leaking out between this O-ring, or this collar here, and the shaft itself, slipping up the shaft, and then getting flung out at the high RPMs. So this is what was important to fix. It looks like this kit is set for many different configurations of this pump, because there's a lot of parts we didn't need, but I don't see that they were part of this repair. So now we're gonna put it back together. So you can see there the spring pushing the gasket towards the top of the shaft. So it's doing its job up there. All right. Just closing the gap here, nice and tight. Our grate is now nice and clean, which is good to see. All right, that should be that. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this around and reinstall the collar back on the shaft here. All right, all set. All right, let's go ahead and give this a quick rinse. Okay, this guy's ready to go back on in. All right. So with this open, it's going to be a lot easier to mount the pump back to the base and hook it back up before putting the motor on. Let me put the motor on and do its final attachments afterwards. Let's bring this back in. This way it's sitting happy before we start mounting it to the base. That screw. Let's go up. All right, ready? Yep. There it is. All right, so now we've got these 4 screws to put back in. All right, so we're starting to mount all these screws so that the orientation of the motor is correct, but we're leaving them loose. And then we're going to tighten the hardware here to connect the 2 shafts together. That'll allow it to line up as needed so that we have a nice straight connection. And then after that's done, we will bolt this down. Okay. All right, just gonna make sure the motor is seated happily. It's rotating around that very nicely. Okay, so let's torque those down. So in the hard to reach area in the back, we have a very small ratcheting driver, which is going to make this a lot easier because it is quite difficult to reach behind this motor. So let's give this a go. All right. Here we go. Before we forget, let's tighten these down now that everything's in. All right. So now I think we're ready to turn this guy on. Feels good. All right, moment of truth. So that's the sound of solenoids turning on. Lots of different system settings, warming up, getting going. Doing some safety checks so you can hear different solenoids turning on and off, just checking different features of the machine, making sure they're functioning. All right, there it is. So here's the pump that we just repaired. So this is where it'll be leaking from, so we'll keep an eye on it and see if we get any more fluid out of this area. But so far, it sounds very happy. All right, we're gonna close this up, get cleaned up, and that was a machine repair done. Thanks for joining us today. I know this was a bit out of the norm for our usual workflow, but we wanted to just highlight a little bit more of what goes on here at MSB Technology. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to stay up to date with future videos, and we'll catch you in the next one.